The company and the organization and the platform evolves so much because we really see ourselves as moving at the speed of culture. Culture doesn't take a day off. We want to make sure that we're really being extremely agile, and we call it internally an always day one mindset, because literally it does feel like every day is day one and you're constantly learning, innovating, and growing to meet our clients and our user needs and our creator needs in the best possible way.
Welcome to In Other Words, the podcast from Phrase, where we speak with industry leaders shaping the future of how businesses grow, adapt, and communicate on a global scale. I'm your host, Jason Hemingway. I'm the CMO at Phrase. And today we're joined by Remma Vassan, Head of North American Business Marketing at TikTok. She's a seasoned global marketer with over 20 years of experience driving growth for some of the biggest brands. We'll be talking about what it takes for brands to show up in the right moments, why cultural relevance matters more than ever, and how TikTok's helping marketing teams rethink customer experience, content strategy, and global impact. Remma, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good, Jason. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming. So, Remma, you've led marketing teams at some of the most iconic brands in the world. Can you tell us a little bit about how you started out? I'm always interested to hear how marketers start their career, and then how you got to TikTok.
I'm going to get slightly personal for a second and tell you that I knew I wanted to be a marketer at age 13. And it's a funny story. It's because I had a huge crush on my neighbor who is a copywriter at Ogilvy, and it didn't work out. We're still friends. But regardless, he inspired in me this notion that ideas and creativity can have a positive impact on human behavior and influence on human behavior. And even at that age, that notion fascinated me and it kind of stuck with me. And so my first job was at Ogilvy in the space of marketing. And that's kind of how I started in the area of marketing. And this was back in India, where I'm from. And then I'm now what I would probably define myself as a career marketer. I've had multiple marketing roles on different sides of the table, the client side, the agency side, across Asia, Europe, North America, global roles, local roles, but also across classical advertising to digital marketing to social media marketing, influencer marketing, comms, all the way to now being at a platform and arguably one of the most influential platforms today. So it's been an incredible ride, and I'm still like loving every moment of it.
Well, isn't that funny? I think it's for any marketer, it's an interesting question to see where they come from. I mean, yours is a unique story. Falling in love with somebody who was at Ogilvy. Now that's quite interesting. Well, not the usual career path, I would imagine. But you look at your career history, and you do have that kind of agency background, and then going on the client side, which is an interesting switch. And I think actually it's quite interesting. Happens a lot more in B2C than it does B2B, I think. But it is an interesting switch. And do you think there is kind of that difference? Definitely on the agency side, but B2C, B2B, how do you kind of look at that kind of balance as a marketer? Do you see a difference? Or the similarities?
I think I kind of see it because I've done both B2C, a lot of B2C actually, but also now my current role is B2B. I really think about it as B2H, or business to human, because even if it's B2B marketers or consumers, I mean, everyone's a consumer of some kind, right? And everyone's looking at it very much from a human mentality. And in fact, I think the opportunity with B2B marketing is to think about it very much from a human centric lens, and how people behave, what motivates them, what influences them in order to see a lot of success.
I think you're right. And the question was slightly loaded, because I think if you've got classical marketing training, and you did it, agency side and then client side, the principles of marketing are the same. And I think we don't always, as a profession, talk enough about the principles that are behind it and the training. I'm a big proponent of be trained, have experience and be trained in marketing. And always, you've got to keep learning, especially at the moment when, technology is shifting so quickly. I mean, TikTok is a prime example, isn't it, of something that's kind of grown very, very quickly and got into the kind of public psyche and now into the business psyche. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey where you started in TikTok and what you've seen happen in TikTok. It's a phenomenon. I was looking at some of the numbers of users. Is it 2.3 billion users globally or something along those lines? Unbelievable amount.
Yeah, it's over a billion. Yeah, and 170 million in the United States, and over 7 million small businesses. So the impact is just undeniable. And my journey at TikTok, I've been here over 3 years. And to your point, we move so fast. And that's because it's driven by the motivation to serve our clients, our consumers, our creators, and the industry at large, in terms of really thinking about how the evolution is happening and how do we stay ahead of it to meet those needs in the best possible way. So even my role at TikTok has evolved significantly in these last 3 years. From when I joined, I was in a North America role, then I took on a global role, leading one specific vertical, which is gaming, and now I'm back in a North America role. And the company and the organization and the platform evolves so much because we really see ourselves as moving at the speed of culture, because culture doesn't take a day off. And we want to make sure that we're really like being extremely agile, and we call it internally an always day one mindset, because literally it does feel like every day is day one and you're constantly learning, innovating, and growing to meet our clients and our user needs and our creator needs in the best possible way.
Interesting. Yeah, always day one. That's a very good concept. I hadn't heard that. That's really good. So, and you do a lot of research. I was looking as well that you have a complete marketing science team, don't you? That kind of keeps you kind of abreast of trends. And one of the really interesting things that you've done over the past few years is this. The 2025 24, 23, I think you did it as well, which is the what's next trend report. Is that right? So what kind of stuff does that tell you? That kind of discipline of having a marketing science team. What is it telling you today? How's it evolved?
Well, this year's theme, and you're right, we've now done it over multiple years. Uh, and every year is a different sort of macro trend, let's call it a theme, based on what we're seeing through a very deep qualitative and quantitative analysis of like the behavior on the platform. And the macro sort of theme for this year is what we're calling brand chemistry or brand chem. And it's this idea that gone are the days when marketing was about driving consumer wants and needs, but more about listening, adapting, and transforming. And it's this new era of marketing where marketers and brands really need to listen to their communities to build brands and honestly even evolve product solutions based on what really resonates and drive impact. We say this a lot, by the way. The comments section is like the ultimate focus group gold mine, because we hear so much, and there are examples of a lot of brands that have actually adapted their not just their marketing and their advertising, but actually even their product strategy based on some of the insights that they hear from that. And brand chem really translates metrics and engagement. It's all about tapping into culture and fostering really meaningful connections between brands and creators and communities.
So, what are the kind of how do people build those kind of connections? What do people look out for? What are brands tuning into? I think you had this idea of cultural moments. That's quite an interesting thing for me. Can you explain a bit more about that for the people listening in?
We think about it as not just moments, but how do you turn moments into momentum? We're all about alliteration here. But
TikTok.
uh,
Yeah.
yes, there you go. So if you took a step back, as I said before, culture on TikTok happens every single day. And when brands show up, and it's not just to advertise and monetize, but to genuinely engage, they naturally become a part of the cultural conversation, which then drives business impact. And the real value is about showing up consistently, not just during the big tentpole moments like the big game or the award season or Mother's Day, whatever it might be, but really all the time, because culture doesn't take the day off. 64% of TikTok users say that the content is culturally relevant, according to a study by Work. That part arguably is not super surprising, but it's the part where like people really like gravitate to the platform to really understand what's happening with moments, to get informed about moments, to decide what to buy around moments. And we have a lot of data around that as well. So I guess if I had to break it down into very simple terms, it's about showing up consistently, really like being engaged with the community, um, and it's being engaged through video, through comments, and of course through our product solutions as well.
Yeah, I think it's that, customer engagement is a topic that I used to talk a little bit about a few years ago. But I think it's that customer engagement is built over time, and it's a consistent presence where you build trust over time with a customer, and that's about showing up wherever they interact with you, isn't it? So on the TikTok platform, very, very important. And I think it's interesting. You have a global, massively global user base, and one of the examples that is in your trends report is the Vietjet example about, and it's very current because it uses things like AI avatars. It's got multilingual messaging, and one of the cool things that we do at Phrase is all about multilingual content and how brands can manage and generate that. But what does that say? That Vietjet, how does that think about how brands need to think about a global, being relevant, being those moments from a global context? Because it's, I often think that in a Western society, we always think about things like personalization in English. We always think, oh, we'll personalize things, but it's how do you do that? How do you show up regularly in those moments in a kind of multilingual fashion? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, and I've been, as I mentioned earlier, in several global roles. And the inherent challenge with global marketing is how do you scale your marketing, but yet ensure that it's relevant to the different regions, right? And we have, just from an executional perspective, we have tools that you also mentioned around called Symphony, which is essentially our AI based scaled creative solution that allows you to take the work out of the work. So enhancing the creativity, but ensuring that we're able to do things like dubbing and like easy language translation. So marketers can really easily imagine, execute, and scale campaigns across borders and cultures. And then specifically when it comes to uh, bilingual, because you asked that question as well, I think it's maybe I can dimensionalize it with an example. We know, and we did recent research with NRG that shows that the best way for brands to connect with, for example, the bilingual Hispanic audience on TikTok is through mixed language ads using both Spanish and English. And in fact, 66% of bilingual users appreciate it's not just about the language, but also like ads that have references to day to day life, and not just special occasions. 63% want to see more ads with creators from their culture. So all of this makes a lot of sense, right? So part of it is the language, but the other part of it is also like the representation of creators and like references to that culture as well. And a really great example of how this came to life is with Elf Cosmetics. Uh, Great company, does incredible work on the platform. They stepped into the world of telenovelas on TikTok. And it's a type of soap opera, predominantly produced in Latin America. And it was for a new campaign based in Mexico, which I'm not going to try to say it in Spanish because I don't speak the language. But it essentially translates to Discover the Elf Effect, which was a 2 episode drama series on TikTok that was meant to showcase how this elves top products and budget friendly price points naturally integrate into the storytelling. So that was a really long answer to your question. I guess if I had to TLDR it, it's about like the right kind of like product solutions that we're building, like Symphony, that allows marketers to scale, but also from a marketer perspective, thinking about as they're reaching these different bilingual audiences, how are they also customizing the cultural references, the creators, etc., that's most appropriate for the different audiences.
Yeah, well, I think that's a fantastic answer. I think it's not superficial, is it? That's the point. It's not superficial. You have to really, really consider, the audience in many ways, which is a classic. You've been trained classically in marketing. You are not the customer. Always put yourself in their shoes. Anyway, so look, we're probably mid show moment, and we have this bit in the shows which we call this an inbox confession. So I'm going to ask you to think on your feet, but it's the same question for every guest, and it's really, what's the one thing you wish you could automate to make your workday easier?
My calendar. I'm always playing calendar Tetris, and an automated calendar that also somehow magically knew which priorities, because priorities always change all the time. How to switch meetings based on the changing priorities would be incredible. And by the way, if it was automated enough that it could even stretch time magically, that would be really incredible. But yes,
It's surprising how many marketers go down the kind of calendar route, and then it's like, can you clone me? Help me make some decisions. Have another one of me. Anyway, look, I'm not going to argue with you. I think you're absolutely spot on with that one. So let's talk a little bit more about TikTok as a content-first platform. How do you strike that balance between a planned campaign and reactive, real-time content? How do marketers do that? Because I can feel it for a big brand with lots of marketers that can kind of tune into this sort of stuff. But you just said that you've got SMBs as well that do this. So how do they balance that plan versus reactive mode?
and I would say that the answer to that is to be always on, because that's when you have an always on connection with your creators, your communities, then you're able to engage with your audiences all the time, not just during those amazing magical moments that you can certainly tap into in a reactive basis as well. And we really see effective branded content as not disruptive, but additive to the user experience, right? Because people spend a movie's worth of time here for good reason. It's because their For You page gives them that amazing user experience. And so, branded content that continues to build on that experience and ties into the content, what the community is really like looking to learn more about, tied to what the brand has a right to play in, because it has to be authentic to the brand as well. So, really, it's about marrying the interest of the brand and the community with really brilliant storytelling. Um, and whether you're an SMB or you're a large brand, that principle still applies because you're staying true to who you are and engaging with your community on a consistent basis, not just during those incredible moments. I can give an example if you'd like of a brand that does this well. So Nutter Butter, a
Yeah,
legacy
I know,
brand,
I
has been
know, I know.
around for a long time. And by the way, for those listening, if you haven't checked out the Nutter Butter TikTok, please do, because it's just wild.
That is way out there, isn't it? It's way
Yeah,
out
it
there.
is. It is way out there, but it's also a brand that has been around for a long time that was losing relevance with Gen Z and so on. And what they are using TikTok to do is essentially to write a modern mystery. Their TikTok is filled with ciphers, with ominous warnings and references to some guy called Aiden. And what's really impressive is that they've taken storytelling to the next level where they've gone from like very niche fandom to blockbuster viewing. Like multiple videos have hit 10 million views or more, which is really like amazing.
They're not a massive business. No, it's interesting, and when you look at that, to reference what you said earlier, which is that keep being there, and they do that. They've gone completely all into that kind of. I mean, honestly, look at it; it's crazy. But they've gone all in, and they just repeat it, and do variations of it. It's very interesting, and it gives them a lot of success, I think. So, yeah, and then going back to that kind of multilingual side of things. So showing up, all of those kind of things, being relevant, building chemistry, building engagement over time. You have to do that with in different cultures, in different languages. So that's really. Would you say? And I don't want to put words in your mouth at all, but would you say that's a must-have for relevance and reach? I know you said you mix it in North America for certain audiences between for bilingual audiences, but when you think globally and you've held global positions, you have to that multilingual content side of things. I think Do you need to have that? Is it a must have?
I don't know that it's a must have in every instance because I really think it depends on the brand, it depends on the objective, and it depends on the audiences that you're trying to reach. And what we try to do from our side is build solutions that makes it easy to accomplish those goals, like Symphony that I mentioned. And so, if I think it's understanding based on the audience that you're looking to reach, is that multilingual nature critical? In many instances, I believe it would be. Is it also critical to customize it at the level of local creators, local references, local cultural moments, etc.? I think that varies depending on the brand and depending on the goals.
Yeah, and also probably size. You know, what some is prohibitively difficult in certain things. Albeit with technology evolving as quickly as it is, I think there's more opportunities for everybody to kind of do that stuff. But I think you're right. And again, always start with the audience. What are their expectations? What do they need? So I think that's good. So let's move it slightly away from the actual activities and talk about measurement. What does good content really mean, and how do you track success on TikTok? What tools do you have to kind of do that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, let me start with what success looks like. We define success not just as, engagement metrics, but very much about what the brand business goals are. So just as you said, we should start with the audience. We also believe we should start with what business problems or opportunities we're solving for. And that can vary from driving awareness, so let's say of a new brand launch, to downloading apps of the latest version of Subway Surfers, to movie bookings, to auto buying leads. And in fact, uh, because we believe in starting with the business objectives, we are driving solutions and developing solutions very much tied to that. So I'll double click into auto as an example. More than half of TikTok users watched reviews and discover new vehicles on TikTok. So it's really emerging as a place where critical automotive purchasing decisions are happening. So that's the user behavior. And then there's the brand behavior. So brands like Mercedes, for example, they're using TikTok's advertising capabilities to drive impactful results. 31% increase in brand favorability, 15% in click to conversion rate. So, seeing all of this happening, we recently launched our auto ads product solution, and Nissan tapped into it and they achieved the best ever performance on TikTok as a result of that auto ad solutions when they were promoting their new Pathfinder SUV.
Okay, that's interesting.
They were so impressed with the performance that they made it a permanent part of their performance strategy on the platform indefinitely, which is really like gratifying and amazing to see. So my answer to your question is, what does success look like? It's about what your business goals are, and what are the metrics we drive against. It's the metrics tied to those business goals.
Well, it's interesting, yeah, and you're right. The business can solve for its own needs at the same time as customers. That's the nature of marketing. In its essence, is helping solve customer needs, by building products. But so taking that kind of idea, that's solving for customers. But thinking about your team, your role at TikTok itself, how do you? We talk a lot about brands, but how did TikTok start marketing themselves? How do you build your global campaigns and approach global marketing?
We think about it very much through the lens of how can we be this full funnel solution that's driving business outcomes. So, not just a platform partner, but a partner that's customized towards listening to client feedback, listening to user feedback, creator feedback, and developing solutions that help accomplish that. So that's our North Star. And that's something that we drive towards consistently around the world. Whether it's through the lens of our product development, what we say from a marketing perspective, what we talk about with our clients, we're very, very, very receptive to client feedback. And in fact, we see ourselves as not just building for clients, but building with clients to achieve those outcomes.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you have that massive global reach which has been developed. You've got a ready-made, I'm going to say audience again, but I mean kind of a ready-made research panel, let's say, a huge research panel that you can draw from, which is actually amazing. And what role does AI play in how you market? I mean, it's a massive topic for marketers at the moment, isn't it? Is like how you're using AI, and it gets a bit boring in a sense. But it's always interesting to see how other teams, especially global brands like TikTok, how they are using AI in their marketing. Obviously, it's in the platform. I get that. So, but how do you use it as a marketing team and leader?
Our mission as TikTok is to inspire creativity and bring joy, right? And I know there's a lot of discussion about AI and creativity. At TikTok, our philosophy is that AI, we really think about AI in the context of enhancing human creativity, not in any way replacing it. And the solutions that we're developing very much tie to that philosophy as well. I'll go back to Symphony that I mentioned earlier, and I'll just double click into that to illustrate this point. We've seen firsthand through Symphony, which is our suite of creative AI tools, uh, the importance of that need in today's video first world. Um, Essentially, Symphony simplifies the work behind the work, whether it's content production, enhancing briefs, unlocking new levels of speed and scale. For example, I talked about the language dubbing already, but Symphony Assistant, it almost is like a creative partner. It helps the team generate ideas. It stays on top of the latest TikTok trends, which can be overwhelming, but it helps simplify that. And also, even write stronger brief. It's there from the beginning to support the creative journey. So you can see, for example, someone who is not quite as big, how that would be really, really beneficial and helpful. The Symphony Creative Studio really empowers teams to produce and refresh content tailored to TikTok's unique style, because TikTok does have a fairly unique style. So, whether you're a brand with a full creative team and agency or a lean in house team looking to do this, the Creative Studio is a great partner. Because really, and this is how we think about, to answer your question about AI, like creative isn't optional. It's what enables the brand to connect to audiences meaningfully. And so AI is a great enabler of that creativity and enhancing that creativity, and takes away the challenges, particularly of global marketing, in a seamless way. And it's a core part of our product innovation as we move forward.
Yeah, well, look, I think it's a platform like yours. It has to be, indeed, in almost every technology space, it has to be a core component. So let's zero in again about into TikTok's actual marketing. So how big is the team for TikTok from a marketing perspective? Is it? I would imagine it's huge.
I guess without getting into specifics, I would say that it's less about the size of the team and more about ensuring like that it's fit for use for what the local markets needs or the local regions need. So yes, I think it's less about size and more about like having the right capabilities that help us be very, very attuned to how the industry is evolving and the clients are evolving.
Those teams, so you have local marketing teams placed around the world. So that must be how does that get managed effectively? Is it diverse? Is it dispersed in terms of its management, or is it centralized? How does it kind of work?
We have regional marketing teams. So because as you can imagine, each region has its own nuances. So we really look at it like through a regional lens, but at the same time ensuring that we have an overarching global vision and mission that we're all like striving towards as our North Star.
Yeah, and then I would imagine that those local teams can build global campaigns with the global teams, or then go and take those and make them regional. So it really is quite a diverse sort of environment to kind of manage. But and what would you say from a leadership perspective? What's needed to keep all of those different moving parts, those different regions, kind of all going in the same direction? What are your thoughts on that?
My manager, Sofia Hernandez, she's the global business marketing leader for TikTok. And one of the things that we talk a lot about is how do we really continue to stay agile and, always like evolving as our client needs and the industry evolves. So that's something that we're always thinking about. And how do we make sure that we are like giving that context to our teams to ensure that they see what that vision is and how we are continuing to evolve to address that vision.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, keeping people abreast of the vision is absolutely important and what you're trying to do. And how do you create space for teams to be honest and learn and perhaps learn for things that don't go right?
They don't all the time, it's true. And I think part of it is like having the permission to be vulnerable as a leader, I think is really important because it's also about acknowledging what I might have learned along the way through what didn't go right, and having the honest conversations about what we learn and giving people permission to fail, because that's how you learn, right? Like having that test and learn mindset and being very, very candid and clear about what the parameters are, where can we take a risk and where should we not, and like really giving people to lean into that. But I think ultimately it's about vulnerability as a leader.
I think that's right. And have you got any examples where you've had a moment where you've shifted to a different approach, more agile, more proactive, or something? And how did that impact the team and your strategy?
Well, and this is, I would say, a red thread, not just at TikTok, but throughout my career. The toughest part about, some of this is change management. Uh, like people don't naturally love change. Like it's just not, I think, in human nature to love, change, to be like, yes, I'm gonna like change. But what I've found is that when you build that culture of like leaning into change and embracing it rather than shying away from it, it can be really, really magical. And I think key to keeping people motivated through that is sharing context. Context is incredibly important on like why the change is happening, for what reason, for what business purpose, and to what end.
Yeah, I think that's right. Context, as far as you can take it, is always good. Context and transparency, I think, is the key. Okay, so if you could, we're coming to the end of our discussion here. It's been brilliant to hear your thoughts and everything about TikTok and your career. Very entertaining. But if you could leave the audience with mindset shift around cultural moments and global growth, what would it be?
I would say that we live in a world where communities are revolutionizing how moments are consumed and created. And that's certainly manifesting on TikTok. Um, and this transformation gives brands the opportunity to harness the power of always on engagement, but with real time amplification that creates really lasting business impact around culture defining content that's unfolding every day on TikTok. And by the way, people think about moments as the big ones, right? The ones that I was mentioning earlier. But the truth is, moments happen all the time on the platform. And it's everything from National Puppy Day to, the big game or awards or the Met Gala and so on. And so it's really like reframing what moments are and then thinking about how to best harness the power of that is really, really critical. And, we're always developing solutions for brands to help harness that. And whether it's things like Pulse Premiere, for example, which allows top content during these major tentpole moments, top branded content to appear, or we even launched recently sponsorship packages, which puts advertisers at the heart of cultural moments like Formula One and Beauty Month on the Grand Prix and like so on.
Yeah, it's almost like even thinking about moments is kind of you've got to make sure that understand that moments are fluid. They're not singular. They actually it's a stream of moments, isn't it? That's the interesting thing. So look, very quick fire end to this. So describe global growth in one word.
Dynamic.
Nice. What's the biggest lesson you've learned in your career?
Being a lifelong learner.
Nice. And who do you think we should speak to next?
Jules LeBron. She's an incredible creator on the platform. I know that's an unexpected response, but I feel like creators like Jules, uh, she was the person who, for context, came up with very demure, very mindful, which took over modern parlance. And I feel like creators are not just amazing at creativity and content and community building, but they're incredible marketers themselves. They're small businesses unto themselves, and Jules is just such an amazing example of that. So yeah, she's who I would recommend.
Well, thank you for that, and we'll try and get in touch with Jules if we can. Remma, thanks so much. That was brilliant, interesting, honest, and very well. Great to have you on the podcast. See you again.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, that's it for this episode of In Other Words, a podcast from Phrase. I've been your host, Jason Hemingway, and a big thank you to Remma Vassan for sharing her insights on how brands can use platforms like TikTok to drive growth and stay relevant and connect more meaningfully with audiences. Very, very interesting discussion. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow In Other Words on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, your podcast platform of choice, or via phrase.com. And stay tuned for more frank and pragmatic conversations on leadership, AI, marketing, customer experience, localization, multilingual content, and what it really takes for businesses to scale globally. Thanks again, and see you soon.